Great. All right. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate you applying to be a peer reviewer for the state of Tennessee and are really looking forward to working with you all over the next few weeks as we review these applications. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with some introductions so that you know the team here in Tennessee. We'll go over our process timeline. We'll cover some program and some more kind of background information. And then we will dive deep into the components of the application that you'll be reviewing. We will talk through the review process, and then we'll go over some instructions for our grant management system, which we call ePlan. And then most importantly, we'll talk about getting you all paid. So we'll talk about compensation and invoicing. So before we start diving into our content, I want to spend just a couple minutes introducing you all to the extended learning team here at the Tennessee Department of Education. Artina Fawcett is our operations coordinator. She is literally the brains behind this whole peer review operation. So she is keeping us all organized and is handling a lot of the paperwork and logistics. So you are probably already familiar with Artina, and you'll be hearing a little bit more from her later in the presentation. My name is Bryn Obermiller. I'm the Senior Director of ESEA Oversight here at the department. I'm very pleased to introduce you to Anessa Ladd, who is our brand new Extended Learning Grant Manager. Anessa just started with us on April 1st, so she is still pretty new to the team and is just here to learn about the process. And then finally, we have Mario Pennington, our Federal Grants Manager, who is always a wealth of knowledge when it comes to extended learning in Tennessee. So these are the team members that you may end up interacting with throughout this review process. And so I thank them all for being here and helping out. Okay, we'll go over the process timeline. Again, throughout our time together, please feel free to come off mute, ask questions, type your question in the chat, and we'll make sure you get all of the information you need. So here we are with our timeline. You all were selected toward the end of March. So again, thank you so much for applying. Today is April 17th, our reviewer webinar. And once this webinar is concluded and you have submitted all of your paperwork, you can go ahead and begin your reviews. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of our time together. You all will be scoring applications from April 17th until May 10th. And so we are asking for initial rubrics to be submitted by May 10th. Based on the scores that are submitted, we may need to hold some review conference calls between May 20th and May 30th to make sure that all of our scores are aligned and make sense. Based on those calls, some edits may need to be made to your rubrics. And in that case, we are asking for all final rubrics to be submitted May 31st. So we'll talk a little bit more about the rubric and the review process as we move through our time together. Okay, so we'll get into some basic program information. So most of you on the line are veterans in this work, so hopefully this will just be a quick review for everybody. You are reading applications for the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant, which provides federal funds to establish or expand community learning centers. Under Title IV Part B of ESSA, these centers are intended to provide students with opportunities for academic enrichment, youth development, and family support during non-school hours or during periods when school is not in session. So as it works in most of your states, the U.S. Department of Education awards funds to the Tennessee Department of Education, and then we are responsible for implementing the competitive grant process as well as oversight of the funds. Funds can be used for a wide array of activities, which you can see up on the screen. And so here we have everything from academic enrichment to drug and violence prevention, STEM programming, expanded library service hours, and even parenting skills and family literacy activities. And as you all know, these are very broad categories. And program activities should always be based on the interests and the needs of the students and families in each community being served. As far as who is eligible to apply for the grant, school districts, community-based and faith-based organizations, and other public or private organizations proposing to serve students in Tennessee are eligible to apply for funding. We will not award grants to fund any kind of startup organization or any kind of brand new program. We are seeking organizations that have experience in this type of work, and any agency that has not previously received a grant on behalf of the state of Tennessee will be required to verify their ability to administer grant programs before we consider them for funding. And as we get into the components of the application, I will show you where we kind of gather that information for you to review. So as is the norm with 21st century programs, grants will be awarded to programs that primarily serve students who attend schools with a high concentration of low-income students. And that is defined as 40% or more. So any school that serves 40% or more low-income students is eligible for designation as a Title I school-wide program. There are several ways that an applicant can determine poverty levels. Really, this is more specific to LEAs. There are different types of data that LEAs can use to inform who will be served under Title I. And so in Tennessee, districts can use any of the pieces of data that you see on the screen. So we have free and reduced lunch, direct certification, TANF, Medicaid, census, or even household survey data. So as you are reviewing applications, there probably will be some variation in the types of data that you are seeing applicants utilize to determine their eligible participants and their eligible schools. And I'll show you in just a minute where within the application you'll be able to see a site's Title I status. And then throughout the application, you should see some of this data sprinkled in, especially in the needs assessment. So in Tennessee, all programs must provide service in a manner consistent with the state child care guidelines. And we have a link here where you can access that if you're interested. We will send this PowerPoint, the slides out to everyone either this afternoon or tomorrow. And then up on this slide, you can also see our service hour requirements. So for grades pre-K through 6, the program must be in operation for a minimum of 12 to 15 hours per week. And for grades 7 through 12, the program must be in operation a minimum of 10 to 12 hours per week. There is a part of the application where the applicant will show you kind of a basic program schedule that will outline their hours of operation. And so this will be something that you will be verifying within the application. Our target participation hours are also on this slide. So we have a target of 90 to 180 hours for elementary students and 45 to 90 hours for middle and high school students. So again, you will be looking through schedules and timelines to make sure that their application meets these requirements. In Tennessee, programs that operate for 15 or more hours a week will also work with the Division of Early Learning to receive a certificate of approval for operations. So that might be something that you see reflected in the application. And we do ask that all of our programs are fully operational and serving students by October 1 in their first year. So that should definitely be reflected in their program timelines, which I'll show you in just a minute. ESSA also allows for 21st century funds to be used for expanded learning programs. These are programs that are included as part of an expanded learning program that provides students with at least 300 additional program hours before, during, or after the traditional school day. They must supplement but do not supplant regular school day requirements and are carried out by entities that meet the eligibility requirements. We typically do not have any applicants that do a true ELT program, but if we did, we would expect that they would upload a detailed plan around ELT to the related documents section of the application. I did some spot checking yesterday and noted that we do have about 20 applicants who uploaded something to that section, but all of them that I checked were either documents just stating that it wasn't applicable, or it was maybe a program schedule which was uploaded and that they didn't really understand what ELT was. So all that to say, when you check the related document section, some of you may find an upload related to ELT, but like I said, based on what I saw with some quick spot checking, I don't believe that anyone is truly running an ELT program. And I'll show you in just a few minutes what that related document section looks like. Okay, so under ESSA, all 21st century programs must be operated under these principles of effectiveness. A, they must be based on an assessment of objective data regarding the need for before and after school programs, including during summer recess periods and activities in schools and communities. And we do have a needs assessment section of the application where applicants will provide us with this information. B, they must be based on an established set of performance measures aimed at ensuring the availability of high-quality academic enrichment opportunities, and we'll talk through those in just a minute. And then C, if appropriate, be based on scientifically based research that provides evidence that the program or activity will help students meet the state and local student academic achievement standards. So as you are reviewing your applications, you should expect to see all of these principles of effectiveness put into play. Okay, so that was just a little bit of background, a little bit of context about the 21st century program. And so now we are going to shift gears just a little bit and discuss the components of the application that you will be reviewing. So as you have probably read in some of the communications we have sent out, all applications will be reviewed in ePlan, which is our grant management system. There are 7 sections of the application that will require your review, and you can see those highlighted up on the slide. You also are seeing a screenshot of the sections page of the application. And so you kind of want to think about this as your table of contents. This is the page that you would use to access all of the different sections that you will review. And so we'll spend just a couple minutes going through each of these sections and going over what is expected. So the very first page that you will review is the cover page. And this is a section that is not scored, but it will provide you with some helpful context and some background information. And so there are a few things on this page that you will want to look over. At the very top of the page, you'll see very basic information about the applicant, their name, their address, their website, and then you'll see the contact information for their project director as well. Next, you will see a drop-down where they indicate what type of organization they are. So this is obviously very helpful background information. They will indicate whether they are a district, a nonprofit, community-based organization, and likewise. Next, they will check a box to indicate whether the application is a joint application between a district and a CBO. And that is going to be one of our competitive priorities that we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. And then they will provide you with a list of sites. So within that list, they will provide the number of students to be served, the grade spans that will be targeted, and the site address. They will also indicate if the school is a Title I school, a priority school, which in Tennessee is called, it's a mouthful, so get ready. It's called a comprehensive support and improvement school, or if it's a focus school in Tennessee, they are called targeted support and improvement or additional targeted support and improvement schools. So you may see some specific Tennessee language when districts and CBOs are talking about this. And then at the bottom of that page, they will enter their UEI number. So on this page, like I said, you do not assign a score to it, but it is helpful to look at for some background information, as well as gathering information about the number of students they tend to serve, as well as those grade levels. The next section is one of the most important, and it is the comprehensive needs assessment, and it is worth 20 points in the overall review. As you all know, conducting a needs assessment is obviously one of the most essential tasks in planning to apply for this grant. In order to maximize effectiveness and leverage resources, a thorough assessment must not only identify assets and gaps, but should also ensure coordination between existing programs and the services provided in the application. So in this section, we are asking applicants to describe their community's needs as well as their assets, and to also describe the needs assessment process that they utilize in the development of this application. So specifically, when you go to this page, you will see responses to prompts around how the community was notified of an intent to apply and how the application was made available for public input. And that, as most of you know, is required under ESSA. They will describe the process used to identify community needs and assets, including the sources of data used and the key stakeholders who were involved. And ideally, we would want to see a stakeholder group that involved parents, students, if applicable, community members, and educators. They must describe the needs identified that will be addressed through the proposed activities. They will describe the community assets that have been identified, including the opportunities to improve the program experience for students and families, and broadly, how the assets can be used to support the program. And then finally, on this page, they will describe how the proposed program will coordinate federal, state, and local programs. So within this section, we are looking for a thorough and robust needs assessment. We are looking for a strong justification for programming that is backed up by data. And we are also looking to see evidence that the community was involved in this process. So really looking at how they engaged stakeholders, how they collected feedback to help inform the design of this application. We really want to see a strong connection between the needs that they identify and the activities they propose. And we want to make sure that they have identified those assets that already exist that can help strengthen and improve their programming. So again, this section is worth 20 points on the rubric. Next, we move on to the largest section of the application, and that is the project logistics and design section, and it is worth 40 points. So this, you want to think of this as kind of the section that holds the overall plan for implementing program activities. As I just mentioned, all of the activities that we see in this and as well as in the budget must address the needs and consider the assets that were identified in the needs assessment section. So we want to see a detailed description of how program goals will be achieved and an overall picture of what a typical day in the program would look like. So within this project logistics and design section, there are 7 areas that you will review. Up at the very top of this page, the first thing that you will review is the organization's prior history implementing an extended learning program. So as I discussed earlier, applicants must provide data and evidence of their previous success in operating out-of-school programs targeting similar youth populations to be served by the proposed 21st century program. If the applicant has not operated such program in the past, evidence must be provided that otherwise demonstrates experience or the promise of success in providing educational and related activities that will complement and enhance academic performance, achievement, assessment, program monitoring, and positive youth development of the students. And so what you will see within the actual application are going to be 2 checkboxes, which you can see that screenshot towards the bottom of the slide. There is one for prior grantees and then one for new applicants. As you can see, it is right there in the application. A prior grantee is defined as an agency that has received either a 21st century or LEAP grant within the last 5 years. For those of you who are new to Tennessee and don't know, LEAPS is our state-funded after-school program. So our office manages both 21st century and LEAPS, and we we run LEAPs pretty much identical to the way we run 21st Century. So if an applicant has had either a 21st Century or a LEAP grant within the last 5 years, we are considering them to be a prior grantee, whereas a new applicant is an agency that has not received either a 21st Century or a LEAP grant within the last 5 years. So based on whether they are a prior grantee or a new applicant, they will check the corresponding box, and then a series of questions will pop up. For our prior grantees, we are asking them to describe their previous success in operating an out-of-school program, and we are expecting that that description will also include data to back up that success. For our new applicants, again, we are asking for evidence that they have successfully managed a similar program, and again, would prefer to see some data to back up that evidence. So next we move on to student recruitment and retention. And here we have a couple of prompts where the applicants will describe who will be served and the process for recruitment and retention. They will also describe the data that they will use to determine student participation in the program. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you may see different types of data being used by applicants depending on how Title I eligibility is determined in their community. But all applicants should have a clear description that they include of how they are determining what sites to serve, what students to serve, how they will keep their student numbers up, and the strategies that they will use to recruit new students if needed. Next in this section, we have the nutritional programs and physical activity area. So here, applicants will describe how healthy snacks will be provided and the type of physical activities that will be offered to students. As you all know, federal funds cannot be spent, especially 21st century funds, on unhealthy snacks or food during program hours or during family engagement activities. So we are looking to see here in the description they provide and in any money that is budgeted for snacks that they are healthy and meet those program requirements. Further, in Tennessee, grantees are required to include a minimum of 60 minutes per week of participation in a structured physical activity. That must be built into their program design, and they must also promote improved nutritional habits of program participants. So in this section, we want to see how they are meeting those requirements, specifically around that 60 minutes per week of physical activity. It must be a structured activity. Okay, so we don't want to see that kids will be just doing free play out on the playground. That would not count. We want to see structured activities. Best practice would be where we see them doing structured activities that are physical in nature, but are also focused on learning standards and what is going on in the classroom or program. Next, we have our program schedule. And so these are simply tables that the applicants will use to show us, again, the grade levels that will be served, as well as the number of hours the program will be open each week. So here is where we are really checking to make sure that the applicant has met those minimum number of hours that we covered earlier, and that they are giving the students the opportunity to hit those target participation numbers. So within these tables, they will indicate when the programming will occur, what day of the week. They will mark if it is before school, after school, in the summer, or part of an ELT program. They will enter the total number of hours the program will be open each day of the week, and also indicate the days that transportation will be provided if that applies to their program. Speaking of transportation, in addition to noting when transportation will be provided on those tables, there's also a section on this page that calls for a transportation plan. So in this area, applicants must describe the procedure for safe transportation of participant and include details as applicable about bus transportation, parent pickup, or walking. So however students will be dropped off and or picked up should be described in this section. Please note that we do not require applicants to provide transportation to and from programming, so we ask that reviewers please do not deduct points from an applicant who is not providing transportation. And again, here in Tennessee, all programs must provide services in a manner consistent with our state childcare guidelines when it comes to transportation. So you may see some language reflective of that in this section of the application as well. Okay, so the next section of the project logistics and design page has to do with our performance goals and indicators. So it is going to be important for us just to spend a couple of minutes kind of covering what we do here in Tennessee and how you might see that reflected in the application. So to start at the very beginning, we, like most states, if not all states, we base our performance goals and indicators on the 21st Century Government Performance and Results Act, or GEPRA measures, which again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with. These are the measures that ED uses to determine success in the 21st Century program, and in turn, we use these measures to then create our own state-specific goals. There are 5 of them. Number 1 is academic achievement based on state assessments. That is the percentage of students in grades 4 through 8 participating in 21st century programming during the school year and summer who demonstrate growth in reading, language arts, and math on state assessments. Number 2 is academic achievement as measured by GPA data, and that is the percentage of students in grades 7 through 8 and 10 through 12 attending 21st century during the school year and summer with a prior unweighted GPA of less than 3.0 who demonstrated an improved GPA. Number 3, school day attendance, which is the percentage of students in grades 1 through 12 participating in 21st century programming during the school year and had a school day attendance rate at or below 90% in the prior school year and demonstrated an improved attendance rate in the current school year. Number 4 is behavior, which is the percentage of students in grade 1 through 12 attending 21st century programming during the school year and summer who experienced a decrease in school suspensions compared to the previous school year. And then finally, number 5 is engagement in learning, and that is the percentage of students in grades 1 through 5 participating in school year and summer who demonstrated an improvement in teacher-reported engagement in learning. So like I said, based on those GEPRA measures, we set our own state-specific performance goals, which also include several indicators. Each applicant will be expected to show in their application how they will work towards and meet these performance goals, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So based on those GEPRA measures in Tennessee, we have created 7 performance goals. So number 1 is that all students will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in reading, language arts, and mathematics. Number 2 is that all students will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in all subjects. Number 3 is the percentage of students who are chronically absent from school will decrease. Number 4 is that all students will exhibit positive behavior changes that support academic and social growth. Number 5, all students will continuously be engaged in their learning. Number 6, family engagement will be embedded into the entirety of the program. And then finally, number 7, that early learners will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in reading. So within the application, all of the applicants will need to discuss their plans around those performance goals and the indicators. This is another area where the applicants will complete tables to convey this information. And on the next slide, I'll show you what one of those tables looks like. So within these tables, the applicants should describe the specific program activities that will be implemented to address each performance goal, the relevant professional development activities that they will provide as they relate to each goal, and how progress towards each performance goal will be communicated with stakeholders, including parents, students, and community members. In this section down towards the bottom of the tables, underneath all the tables, they will also be asked to describe the capacity of their organization to fulfill the GEPRA measures, the state performance goals, and local evaluation requirements. And so here, what we are looking for is for them to identify internal staff members and include a description of their qualifications or relevant experiences in these areas. And so this is a screenshot of what those tables will look like. You can see that there are some instructions up at the top, and then you will see a table for each performance goal. So on this page, you're actually going to see 7 tables. The screenshot that you're looking at right now is for performance goal number 1, which is that all students will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in reading, language arts, and math. Underneath that goal, you're going to see our performance targets or our indicators. These are metrics that help our grantees, I guess, really pinpoint and assess their progress in meeting their performance goals. And then under the performance targets, you'll see the narrative boxes for the 3 areas we just talked about, right? So that top one is what activities are you going to conduct to meet this performance goal? The second one is what are the professional development activities that you will be providing regarding this goal? And then the third one is how will they communicate results around this goal to stakeholders? So again, you will see 7 of these tables, 1 for each of Tennessee's performance goals. It is important to note that points should not be deducted because an applicant does not serve a particular grade span that is mentioned in a goal or an indicator. So we have a couple examples up on the screen. We'll talk about the first one. So for performance goal 1, the indicators talk about students in grades 4 through 8. But let's say in this instance, the applicant is a high school site and they only serve students in grades 9 through 12. So rather than focusing their responses on the grade band that is mentioned in the indicator, they were advised to focus their response on the grade bands that they do serve. And so those examples that you see on the screen, if they are not serving grades 4 through 8 for that first performance goal, they would instead describe the reading and math activities for all students. They would then describe the professional development for their staff to support those reading and math activities, and then they would discuss how they would communicate results for the grade bands that they do serve. Okay, so again, we ask that you please do not deduct points because the program does not serve a certain grade band that is mentioned in those goals. We just want to make sure that their responses in these tables make sense based on the overall performance goal and the grade bands that they serve. And then finishing off the program logistics and design page, we have a project timeline. In this section, we ask them to describe the project timeline for the first year of the program. And here we are looking for important dates that describe when major grant activities will begin, when important project milestones will occur, and who is responsible. So all of the activities and the milestones that are in this application must be planned and implemented to achieve performance goals. And so that is what we are really looking for here. We are looking that they have developed a timeline and a list of milestones that will help them achieve those performance goals. We do not expect to see a timeline that identifies all project activities, right? So we're not necessarily looking for a timeline that describes everything that's happening every day throughout the school year. Rather, we are just looking for those important milestones and important activities that will help them get to their end result. You will probably find that many, if not all, I would say, of your applicants, as part of their answer to this section, will also upload a document, maybe a sample schedule, to the related document section of the application. So in a lot of cases, you will find both a narrative description in this area as well as some additional documentation in that related document section. So you really want to make sure that you are checking both places for anything that is related to the project timeline. And I'll show you in a few minutes where that might show up on that related documents page. Okay, so that wraps up the program and logistics. Program logistics and design page, which again is worth 40 points. And so now we'll move on to partnerships. This section is worth 10 points, and in this section, applicants should describe how partnerships have or will be formed to carry out project goals. And as you all know, establishing partnerships with other organizations is a crucial aspect of the 21st Century Program. CBOs must form partnerships with the schools of the students that they are serving. School districts must form partnerships with community agencies to enhance their program. We want to see partnerships with existing extended contract services such as Title I, special education, or other school-based programs that can also help provide required academic components of the program. And we look to see that grantees are seeking out community partners such as park and rec centers, youth organizations, museums, volunteer groups to assist with non-academic programming. So in this section, we are looking for a detailed description of the applicant's partnerships, which should include a description of the services and what will be offered by the partner, the frequency of the services, so when they occur and how often, as well as the frequency of partnership meetings. And so in this section, we expect to see a connection with the information provided in the needs assessment, right? Where applicants are finding those outside organizations and partnerships, as well as the partnerships within the assets that already exist in the community. So we want to see some strong connections between these two sections. We also ask that applicants establish written partnership agreements with their partners, and those will be found in the related document section of the application. Next, we have the sustainability section, which is worth 10 points. So in this section, the applicant should discuss how other funds will be leveraged to continue the program and how partnerships can be utilized to defray some program expenses in the future. The sustainability plan should be detailed and should include a list of in-kind contributions that include the source and approximate dollar amount, as well as the details of any proposed program income or fees. So here, again, we are looking for detailed descriptions. We do not want to just see a general statement about seeking other grant funds. So again, a detailed sustainability plan with specific sources of funding and partnerships named. And while we are talking about sustainability, I do want to make a note about program income and program fees. Program fees and income are permissible. However, permission must be granted from the U.S. Department of Education. Any applicant who is proposing to collect fees or generate income must upload a request to the related document section. We then will take that request, and if it's okay on our end, we will then forward it to Ed to get that permission before any fees or income are generated. It is very important to note that no child can be excluded from the program if the student's family is incapable of paying the fee, and this should be clearly communicated by any applicant who is proposing to charge a fee. So if an applicant is establishing a fee structure, they must provide a narrative that explains what the fee structure is and how the fees will be administered and managed. Your job as a reviewer is to determine if the plans have been uploaded to the related document section and if they include all of the required details. Okay, we ask that you do not evaluate the merit of the plan. You, again, will just make sure that they submitted what they needed to submit and that all of the information is there. Next, we will move on to the budget. Applicants will not complete the budget pages that are embedded in the application. Rather, they will upload a one-year budget spreadsheet for projected expenses covering July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025. Those budget spreadsheets will be uploaded and can be found in the related documents page of the application. And so here on the screenshot, this is a screenshot of the related documents section, and you can see down towards the bottom is where that budget has been uploaded. You will click right there on the link and it will pop open for you. The budget upload is worth 20 points. And as you review, you are looking to ensure that all purchases comply with supplement, not supplant provisions, are allowable under ESSA, Edgar, and Title IV Part B, and are allocable, reasonable, and necessary. Budgets should be based on the proposed number of students to be served in the grant. So on the cover page, which we talked about a few minutes ago, applicants should be listing their sites as well as the proposed number of students to be served. And the amount that they budget on their budget upload should be based on that number of students. For this grant competition, we have a per student allocation of $1,250 per student served. The minimum award must be at least $50,000 and the maximum award can be up to $500,000 annually per grantee. So again, you will want to look at the proposed number of students to be served on the cover page of the application, multiply that by 1,250, and that should be the amount that they are including on their budget upload. I'm sure most of you are familiar with reviewing budgets, so hopefully this will just be a refresher for you. There are really two major components that you are going to be looking for. You'll be looking at budget line items, which will really just identify or name the type of purchase that is being proposed. So it will name, whether it is a teacher, a supervisor, equipment, materials, contracts, transportation, etc. More importantly, you will be looking at budget narratives. This is where the applicant will describe why the expenditure is needed and how the dollar amount requested has been calculated. So the expectations that we have laid out for applicants is that they provide as much detail as possible in the narrative. We must be able to determine that the purchase is reasonable and necessary, so the detail provided should reflect that. We also ask that applicants show the math. So for example, in a narrative that describes salaries and wages, it should show the number of individuals being paid, the rate of pay, and the estimated hours per week to be worked. So for example, if they are proposing to spend $30,000 on teachers, we should be able to see how that is broken down and how they reach that figure. Along those same lines, applicants who propose to operate multiple sites must clearly describe how the staffing will be spread across the sites. So in this example, if they are budgeting $100,000 to pay for teachers across 3 different sites, they must show the breakdown of how each site will be staffed. So again, we really want them to show us their math, show us how they arrived at those figures, and not just tell us $30,000 for teachers without providing more information. There are a couple of other things that you will want to consider when you are reviewing the uploaded budgets. When it comes to salaries and wages, we need them to distinguish which employees will be providing direct services to students and which staff members will be performing administrative tasks. So that should be clear in the budget narratives. We want to be clear that administrative costs must be reasonable and necessary and may not exceed 20% of the yearly award. So there again, you'll look at the amount they have budgeted to make sure that they have not exceeded that 20% limit. Any full-time equivalent employees must also they must explain the process for determining what percentage of the employee's time will be spent on grant activities. So let's say that there is a project director who is a project director part-time for 21st Century, and the other half is spent on other ESSA activities. We would want to see that breakdown in the budget. And then finally, the applicant must also clearly describe how staff, including agency administrators, support the achievement of project goals. So in the budget, if you see that they are proposing to hire, maybe a data analyst with their funds, you would want to see within that narrative information about how that data analysis will support the 21st Century program goals and that it indeed is a necessary position. Couple of other things, you will want to see that each application has reserved funds to send staff to different state trainings and meetings. Here in Tennessee, we typically have a few regional convenings each year. You may also see folks budgeting to send people to the National 21st Century Symposium as well. We typically have a multi-state 21st Century conference. We're not having one this year, but you still may see some of that budgeted for people who may have missed that message. But you definitely want to see that funds have been set aside for professional development and that they're being specific about the types of offerings that they will be attending. You may also see some applicants are proposing to purchase technology items such as iPads or laptops. This is allowable. However, in Tennessee, we limit it to 15 items total per project year. And so this is something that you would definitely want to look out for as you're looking at budgets. Okay, so those were kind of the main sections of the application. And next, we'll go through the competitive priorities, and then we'll talk about related documents. And so we do have a couple opportunities for applicants to earn additional points. We have 3 for this competition. The first competitive priority is outlined in ESSA, and that is around applicants who propose to serve students who attend schools identified as a focus or priority school. And then remember, in Tennessee, we call those priority schools a CSI, and then our focus schools are TSI and ATSI. So students who attend a focus or priority school and are submitted jointly between at least one LEA receiving funds under Title I Part A and at least one public or private community organization. Based on some of the questions and conversations that we have received during this application process, I do think that we will have at least a couple of applicants who fall under this competitive priority and to receive points in this area, which is worth 5 points. The application, as well as an uploaded partnership form, should clearly describe that partnership, right, between the applicant, the district, and the community-based organization. Within that partnership, we would expect to see collaboration in the planning and the design of the programming. We would expect to see that each partner has a significant role in the delivery of programming and that each partner plays a role in the management of the program. Okay, so this is definitely more than your normal partnership where someone comes and teaches yoga classes or teaches karate classes. And I do expect that a few of you may see this in your application. So for this priority, we would again expect to see elements of this woven throughout the entire application. And then we would also expect to see a detailed partnership form. Some people may even do an MOA with that partner uploaded to the related documents section. Our next competitive priority is worth 3 points, and it is intended to expand the geographic distribution of programs. So here we have a list of counties that have not had an extended learning grant in 5 or more years. And so any applicant, whether it be the district or a CBO that is operating in these counties, would receive 3 extra points. And then our final competitive priority for this competition is to ensure that all students have access to quality education, regardless of where they live. Priority points, and we have 3 for this one, will be awarded to programs that serve students in the distressed counties that you see up on the screen. And so this list is actually based on the governor's list of Tennessee's most distressed counties. So again, any district or organization that resides in these counties would be awarded 3 additional points. And this is just a screenshot of what that page will look like in the application. So you can see for each of those priorities, the applicant would check a box to indicate whether that applies to them. And then for competitive priority 1, again, they would also upload that partnership form or an MOA to the related documents section. Okay, so speaking of related documents, this is a very important section. This is where folks will upload any documentation that is required, and then we have an optional space as well, which I'll show you in just a minute. We have some things that are required for all applicants, and then some things that are required only if it applies to the organization. So this slide that you're looking at right now are all of the uploads that are required for everyone. Okay, so we have our statement of collaboration and partnership forms. Again, this is the form that will be completed with any community partners that they will be utilizing in their program. So everyone should have at least one of these forms completed, but I would expect in many of your applications, you're going to see quite a few. Next, we have proof of UEI and SAM registration. Next, we have the most recent audit or financial review. If a financial audit or review has not been conducted in the last 2 years, then we ask them to submit a current copy of the organization's operating budget. Next, we have any memorandums of agreement. CBOs should be completing these with the schools and the LEAs that they will be working with. And in some cases, you may even see where LEAs have established MOAs with the schools that will be hosting sites. And then in some cases, some districts will do an MOA when they have a big partner or a partner who's providing some major programming. So you may see a few variations there. And then finally, everyone should have uploaded a 1-year budget spreadsheet, which again will be worth 20 points in that review. And so for you all to review, a few important things here. You definitely, again, want to look at those statements of collaboration and partnership form. It's going to help you get a better idea of the partnerships. You're going to want to look at that most recent audit or financial review. This is really going to help you gauge the ability and the capacity of the applicant to manage a successful program. Again, you're going to want to look at those MOAs. Again, it's just going to give you a better picture of what the program is going to look like. And then obviously, everyone will look at that budget spreadsheet to make sure those activities make sense. Folks are hitting their program goals, and all those purchases are reasonable and necessary. So next we have documents that are required for only certain applicants. We have our 501c3 determination letter, which is for CBOs only, as well as the IRS 990 form. Next, we have consultation with non-public school forms, and that would be for anyone that has an eligible non-public school, our CBOs as well as our school districts. We have the plan for offering expanded learning time, which they would only upload if that applies to them. And then finally, we have any requests for generating program income and or collecting program fees. So out of those documents, the only ones that you would really need to look for is anyone who has uploaded a plan for expanded learning time. Like I said, we have some people that uploaded documents in this section. However, I do not believe that they're truly offering ELT, but it still would be helpful for you to check. And then you're also going to want to look at any requests for program income or program fees and see how that plays into the program. And then down at the bottom, we do have an optional related document section where they can upload any additional documentation that they feel is relevant to the application. So I do expect that just about everyone will see at least one additional document here. So that is definitely something you want to check. And we really emphasize with folks throughout the application period that if they are uploading anything to this optional section, that they need to make sure they reference that in the applicable section of the application so that you will know to look for it, right? So when you are looking at the program timeline section, they may say, please note that we have uploaded a detailed schedule to the related document section, and you would want to make sure that you go click on that and review that. If you have read for us in the past, you may notice that we are not asking you all to look at consultation with non-public school forms like we have in the past. Equitable services is not really a piece to be scored for this competition as you are either compliant or you're not compliant. So we will be working with our federal programs ombudsman to review the equitable services pieces of any grantee who is awarded funds. And so that is not something that you all will need to look at this go around. Okay, we're going to quickly cover charter school applicants, and then I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions. So here in Tennessee, I know it's different depending on what state you're from. Charter schools are not in their own school districts. They are under the LEA in which they are located in most cases. So for 21st Century, the district would serve as the fiscal agent for any charter school that is awarded funds. So the way this will work is any charter school that wanted to apply, they had to complete all components of the application, including a budget, and save it as a PDF. And then they sent it to the district, who uploaded it to their related documents section. So if you have been assigned a charter school, I believe we have a couple of charters from Chattanooga, which would be Hamilton County, and a couple of charters from Memphis, who would be under Memphis Shelby County schools. So if you have been assigned any of those charter schools, you will be able to find that application within the district's application under related documents. It will be saved as a PDF. You click on the link, open it up, score it just as you would the other proposals using our rubric. And if you are assigned a charter school, you will also be assigned to review that umbrella district as well, right? So if you have one of the Chattanooga charters, you'll read Hamilton's application as well. If you're in one of the Memphis charters, you'll read Shelby County's application as well. And so, because again, that district is ultimately going to serve as a fiscal agent for any charter school that is awarded. And if you have questions about that and you're not quite sure, please let us know. We're happy to help. Okay, before we get any further into the review process, I do want to pause and see if we have any questions so far. I know I've just covered a whole lot of information. Not seeing anything in chat. Martina, you have your hand raised.
There are a few of you that called in, and I want to make sure that you get credit for attending this training. So do you mind just saying your name so I can jot you down?
It looks like we have a 1334312 number.
Will you come off mute and let me know who you are so you can get credit for this training?
Yes, this is Glenna. I was on my phone, but now I'm online. So my phone has been disconnected. But I'm on the line now.
Are you the 334 number, Glenna?
No, I was the 606.
Okay. Well, we still have a 334-312 number. So if at some point you could let us know who you are or shoot us an email so that we can give you credit for attending, that would be great. Anything else, Artina, before I keep it moving?
No, ma'am.
Get back to where I was. Okay. So the peer review process, all of these applications were due on April 1st, and then all complete application received by that due date were assigned to this peer review committee. Each application will be read and scored by 3 reviewers, and each application will be assigned a technical merit score based on the review criteria and rubric. Those technical merit scores will serve as the foundation for grant award decisions. And once we have all of your scores, we will determine the amount to be awarded using our funding formula, which includes consideration of the number of students to be served, the amount requested, and prior history serving students. And of course, as always, awards are based on the availability of funding from the U.S. Department of Education. If you have not already, you will be assigned a reviewer number. That number is going to be the only thing to identify you on the rubrics. We will collect your name on the rubric, and we'll show you in just a minute what that looks like. But your reviewer number is what is going to be on those final rubrics that will be shared with our applicants, so that your name will not appear on those rubrics. So you want to make sure you're using your reviewer name, reviewer number. We are assigning, I think, 11 to 12 applications. Everything's going to be reviewed in ePlan. You will have view-only access to those applications, so there is not a way that you can change anything or mess anything up, so don't worry about that. We do ask that you do not print the application. Sometimes when you print things in ePlan, it can get a little wonky. Not all of the information will always appear when you print. And so we do ask that everyone please review those applications directly in ePlan. And I'm going to hand it over to Artina for a couple of slides to talk you all through some tips on the rubric.
Hello to the old reviewers, and I'm looking forward to working with the new reviewers. So the ones who have reviewed for us before, our rubric used to be a PDF version. However, it just did not, sometimes, depending on the comments, it just didn't look nice. So we changed it. It's going to be in FormStack this year, and it'll be online. So when you get, the reviewer numbers have been sent out, your reviewer list has been sent out, and your conflict of interest form has been sent out. So you should have that. Check your email. It's online this year. It's going to be in FormStack, and you will be able to enter your comments as you always have. It'll just print and be able to look nicer when grantees go to ask for their reviews. There will be a PDF version of it. So for those of you who like to kind of work offline or work at your pace, you'll be able to type your comments into the PDF version, but you must submit it in FormStack for it to be accepted. So if there is a difference in reviewer scores, then you'll have a call. There are a couple that may be working in the same department or area. So we just ask that you don't share your reviews or don't share how you with each other. And that's all I have. This is what it looks like. It's like I said, it's going to be through FormStack. It will score when you put in points for the different parts. It will score for you. You can also do that on the PDF version. Just make sure that your math is correct and that all your points add up. And there is a save and resume later link. So you'll need to use an email that you're going to be able to receive that link for if you are interrupted and you want to come back to an application later.
Great. Thanks, Artina. And like I said, and you can see on that screenshot, we will ask for your name and we'll ask for your reviewer number. But when we actually print off the rubrics to share with the applicants, we will make sure that your name is not showing on that rubric. Okay.
As far as the review approach, just objectively review the application and score based on the merits of what has been presented. Make sure that you're scoring each application independently without comparing one to another, and provide concise feedback on the strengths and weaknesses in each section of the application based on the rubric. And here's some scoring guidance. A reviewer should rate each criterion by entering an appropriate numerical score within the given range. It is vital that the reviewers carefully consider numerical ratings because a fraction of a point can make the difference between an application being funded or not. So consider the midpoint of the rating scale as adequate. And from that anchor point, ratings can be increased or decreased on the basis of strengths and weaknesses of that application.
Okay, thanks, Mario. So as we've talked about a couple times, for each section that you are reviewing, you will be required to enter both strengths and weaknesses on the rubric. We would like your comments to be specific and relevant to what is being asked in the application. And we'll go over a couple examples of what that looks like in the next couple slides. For each section that you will be reviewing, we ask that you provide clear, concise feedback on, again, the strengths and the weaknesses. We ask that you use complete sentences and refer to specific details that the applicant mentioned in the proposal. These will basically be public-facing documents when we're done, and so we want to make sure that, again, we're her writing is good, and we're providing specific feedback. We want to avoid general feedback, so statements like "this is such a great idea." We want to be specific and detailed. And then a good thing to kind of keep in mind is, keep in mind that the number of strengths and weaknesses must be appropriate for the score assigned to each section. So for example, if you have identified more weaknesses than strengths, your score should be low. So here are a few sample comments, and these are what we would consider to be high quality, pretty detailed comments. The first one says, in the sustainability plan, the applicant has included income contributions from local business partners. The applicant leverages Title I funds to provide tutoring, and partners will provide financial support for enrichment activities. Next, we have recruitment efforts are detailed, as is the referral process and tier assignment according to the needs based on a thoughtful array of criteria. Next, we have structured physical activities will be offered daily, and students may also participate in junior chef classes. And the plan addresses the need to change methods of success for students in gap categories for math scores, students with disabilities, and African Americans. So with all of these comments, they are specific, they are detailed. It's not just saying this is a great sustainability plan, but they are giving details about why it's a great sustainability plan. In one of the examples, they're calling out a specific class that was mentioned within the application. So again, being very specific. As far as weaknesses are concerned, you can see the 4 up on the screen. The applicant states that academic growth is a need in the proposed sites, but did not provide any data to support. The frequency of service provided by partners was not described in the plan and/or partner agreement. The sustainability plan does not clearly explain how staff, particularly teachers, will be compensated if grant funds are not available. And over $5,000 was allocated in the budget for professional development, but specific types of professional development were not described. So again, these are detailed and specific comments. We're not just saying that this sustainability plan is weak. This reviewer actually gave specific details explaining why it was weak, right? So again, if you are taking points off because the applicant left out information or important details, then you want to call out what that missing information is. Okay, so again, I want to pause really quickly. You guys have been so quiet, which shows me what pros you all are at this. So I do want to pause again and see if we have any questions about kind of norming some of our reviews. Again, as Mario said, you want to kind of think about that midpoint of each score range for each section as adequate, and then either add points on where you see strengths or take points away for weaknesses. Okay, so in that project logistics and design section, which is worth 40 points, you would consider 20 to be an adequate answer. And again, you would add points for strengths, take points away from weaknesses. Okay, no other questions right now? Okay. I am going to hand it back over to Artina to talk through some things around ePlan.
ePlan is what Tennessee uses as their online grants management system, and ePlan will be what you use and view to see your applications. Most of you, there are a few of you that I am missing. Your ePlan form, I cannot give you access until I have that, and I cannot give you access until I have your conflict of interest form. So if you have not sent that in, that will delay you getting access to ePlan. It allows districts and community-based organizations to apply for funding. They can get reimbursed when they start, if they are awarded and they start to expend their funds. And it allows them to put in their budgets and make program revisions as needed. I just said you will need to set a password. You'll need to set a password, and you'll get it from this generic email.
You're muted, Artina.
I'm sorry. Could you go back? Brent.
There we go.
Okay, ePlan is Tennessee's online grant management system. It is what you will use to view your applications. It allows districts and community-based organizations to apply for funding and to request reimbursements, and it allows them to process their budgets and make revisions. If you will need your ePlan access to review your applications. So for those of you who have not sent me your form, that will delay you from getting access. And if I don't have your conflict of interest, that will also delay you getting access. I need both of those things before I can give you access to ePlan. Once you are added to the system, you'll get an email and it'll come from that address. If you don't see an email, I hope to have those for those of you who have completed everything and sent me everything I need, which is most of you, and I thank you. You should get your email by the end of the day. It'll come from that inbox. If you don't see it, check your spam and your junk folder. The email will give you instructions on how to set up your password, and your login will be the email that you have listed on your initial peer review application. And if you don't have it, this is the address for ePlan. It's eplan.tn.gov. But that'll be inside your email. You have to use Chrome or Firefox with ePlan. It does not work in Edge. It does not work well in Safari. What happens when you use those two, you'll be missing bits and pieces of the application. So we don't want you to miss anything that the grantees have submitted. We don't have a back button in ePlan. So when you need to switch to another section, you're just going to hit save and go, and you can find that at the top of your screen, and it'll also be repeated at the bottom of your screen. So you'll go to the save and go box, and then you can click on the different sections between the application if you need to move around. It automatically times out after 30 minutes. So if you get distracted or have to come back, just log back in. Or if you realize that the countdown clock is ticking, you can just click on any section of the application and it'll start your 30 minutes over again. This is what it'll look like when you log in. And again, your email address, your login will be the email address that you have given us. And then the password will be whatever you have set. For those of us who have reviewed with us before, if you don't remember your password, you can just select that forgot your password link, and then you'll get a system generated email to reset it. You will see your name right there if you have logged in successfully. When you you all should have all received your application list, and in your application list will list the organization name and the organization number. So that's to help you navigate quickly without having to do a bunch of moving around and searching in ePlan. So you go to the left-hand side of your screen and hit search and search organizations. And then you can either put in their name, or you can use that number that's on your list to search for the applicant. And whichever one you choose to use, you'll hit search to pull them up. And when you get to the applicant's name, you'll want to click on their organization. That'll take you to their homepage and everything that they've listed or done in ePlan regarding this application. And once you've done that, you've got your organization up, you're going to go back to the same blue column and you're going to click on funding applications. And make sure that you have year 2025. And once you select that, you will go to the link that you see right here, 21st Century Cohort 2024, and that's where you will find the grant application for you to score. These are the sections that you will see, and this will correspond with the, what was earlier spoken in this PowerPoint about the different sections that you'll need to grade. So you can jump around, you can go from top to bottom, however you choose to review the application, these are all of the applicable links that you need. And you could just click on any link so that you can start to review. And if you want to move around or kind of miss the spot, you can always go back and just click on sections to get back to this homepage. The related documents section, this is real important. This is where all of the things will be housed, all of the different attachments that will be housed. So there shouldn't be anyone who doesn't have anything in related documents. So be sure to check related documents, before you score an application or finish with it. And you may want to check it first. It may help you to download or pull down what you want and help you work through your application a little bit better if you download and go here first. And to review anything that's in there, just click on the hyperlinks. So here is one that, as Bryn mentioned earlier, also has 2 charter school applications. So those are 2 separate applications. And so you would just click on the link and you would download in related documents, you would download that application and then score. Okay, here's the fun part. This is why you're here. You want to get paid. So that's why I'm trying to get everyone's attendance and make sure that I don't miss anybody. You'll get paid $72 for this training. Thank you for spending this little time with us. And then it's $188 per application. And so you'll get another $72 for the phone call that you will do if you need to sync your scores. Payment isn't, I can't submit your invoices until I know from Bryn and the team here that all of the activities that have been required have been satisfied. So once they tell me that everything's okay, I can go ahead and submit for you. You should have your invoice by May 29th. And give me a week to have everything signed and submitted. I have to do things internally on this end. And then by June 10th through 14th, those few days, everything should be submitted. And that means people on my end have signed it and reviewed it. And then I can get it sent over to accounting. I do need to let you know that payments can take up to 45 business days. I will do everything that I can to get your payment in expeditiously and to get it in as quickly and as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you so much, Artina. We're going to come back for questions. And quickly, I want to go over just some next steps. So like Artina said, we should already have a W-9. We should already hopefully have an E-Plan user access form and your conflict of interest statement. You cannot begin your reviews until all of those documents have been submitted. If you have submitted all of those documents and you have your E-Plan access, you have your password set up, you are able to begin your reviews at the conclusion of this webinar. We will be sending out contracts in the coming days. It's very simple. It's a cover page that talks about the compensation, has your name at the top, and then there are some terms and conditions you will read over, sign. You must sign that with a wet signature, so a hand signature that then you scan back in and send to us, or an Adobe certified e-signature. We cannot take pictures, screenshots of signatures. Those are the only types of signatures that we are able to accept. Please be sure that you have read our request for application document that was sent out with our initial communication. We will send it out again. It outlines all of the requirements that we've talked about and more, and can provide you with some really helpful context. We ask that all initial rubrics are submitted using our online rubric by May 10th at 11:59 p.m. Central / 11:59 a.m. Central. And then like we talked about earlier, once your scores are submitted, we will go through, find out where there may be some big differences, and then we'll be contacting folks to schedule those conference calls as needed between May 20th and May 30th. And then if any changes need to be made to your rubrics, we would ask for those to be submitted by May 31st. So let me go back to this and see what questions we might have. see. So again, we'll be sending the contracts. You should have already received W-9, the E-Plan form, your assignments, as well as your conflict of interest form. And again, those contracts, I'm hoping we'll get those to you all by the end of this week. A copy of slides, yes, sir. We will get those out hopefully this afternoon before I sign off. We'll email that out. I will also email some helpful other links. I'll email our request for application document. We'll email you the ePlan homepage website for you to get to so that you have everything you need. What else?
If there's any assistance that I can provide before you get off this call, let me know. I'll stay for a couple of extra seconds. I would really like to get everyone's stuff out to them today so that you all can start reviewing. So I am here for you for a minute or two if you need help getting the last of the items in, and you know who you are.
And yes, Howard, we'll send you a link to the rubric, and then we'll also attach a PDF copy of the rubric. I know some people would prefer to initially do those rubrics on paper and then submit all their scores online. That's fine. And so we'll send you a copy of the rubric on paper if you prefer to do it that way. As long as you can make sure you put those scores over to our online form, that is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So up on the screen, you see the best email to really reach us is extended.learning@tn.gov. If you are sending Artina forms, please also CC her at artina.fawcett@tn.gov so that we make sure she gets all of that. She just put in the chat an ePlan user access form if you need that. We'll also try to put that in the email in case anybody's missing it. All right, last call for questions. Of course, we are here to support you throughout this process. You can contact any of us directly or reach out again to extended.learning@tn.gov. We appreciate you all so much. We look forward to reading your reviews, and we look forward to you all seeing a lot of the great stuff that's going on in the state of Tennessee. So please let us know if we could be of any support, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye, everybody.
Artina, I have a question. I'll